Greetings, Barbara E. Ringrose, and you have arrived at Optimize Her2, the podcast on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us. This is episode 11, the magic number 11, where we have Marla Chaffin, who's joining us today. And we're very excited to have her join Quincy and I. LaQuincia Nichols has her own business, experiencecoaching.com. I'm also a small business owner of wowwomenus.com. You can see us on our websites. Today, we're airing January 20th, 2026. And I'm telling you, all around the country, I think people have really felt the cold this year, more so than others, whether you're in Chicago or on the East Coast or out in Arizona, where Quincy is, or even in Las Vegas, Nevada, where Marla is joining us from. That's exciting. And today, our discussion is going to be about how do I get out of the pain and get my energy back? I know a lot of us are having difficulty with pain. We're going to the doctors. They like to give us a pill and send us on our way. Well, perhaps Marla can provide some solutions for that. We want to set the right expectations for our podcast here at Optimize Her2. Our segments run 30 to 45 minutes, and they're on the first and third Tuesdays of every month. We've been doing this since August 19th. So it's been very exciting that we've reached, and we are now over that 10 episode hump.
Yes.
Oh, so get ready for an action-packed segment with us, 3 inspiring females. And I just want to say that this podcast is meant for informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute that professional, legal, financial, or medical advice. I know you have people that you connect with and so forth, and you might want to reach out to them. Always, always, always consult a qualified professional or someone that you've already been seeing for personalized guidance. But I can tell you that Quincy, myself, and Marla, we've had decades of experience, both on a personal level and a professional level. And I think it's important, if you'd like to reach out with us, comment, please like, share, subscribe. We'd love that. So I'm going to introduce Quincy Nichols to you of experiencecoaching.com so she can share a little about herself, and also our guest speaker, Marla Chaffin.
Yes. Hi, Barb. Hi, Marla. I'm so excited to have another episode of Optimize Her2. I think we are doing great. We are hitting our stride, I think, with the podcast, and every episode is just feeling more and more natural. So I'm excited for the journey to continue well within 2026 and beyond. So hi, everyone. Just as a reintroduction, I am LaQuincia Nichols. I am the owner and founder of experience-coaching.com. There I work with ambitious women and small business owners who are really looking to unleash their fiercest truth in the moments that matter most. So I help you say the things that you need to say without worrying about hurting too many feelings. And what I'm really excited to have our conversation about today with Marla is that you have to have some strong conversations about your health and what's feeling good and what isn't. So let me tell you about Marla. She is a lifestyle detective who turned her own battle with stress, chronic pain, and an autoimmune illness into a mission to help women heal. With a blend of compassion, real-life experience, and functional wellness strategies, she empowers women who feel exhausted, overlooked, and overwhelmed to finally understand what their bodies are trying to say. Marla brings clarity where there's confusion, hope where there's frustration, and a roadmap where there once were only symptoms, guiding women back to energy, confidence, and the life they were meant to live. I am excited to have Marla as a part of our Optimize Her2 family. Marla, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. I love that little part in your bio too about the roadmap, because I think that's such an important thing.
It is. Chronic pain is a journey. It was a journey, as I tell my patients and my clients. It was a journey when you got here, and it's a journey to get out of it. It's not going to be something that you change overnight. You didn't get into the chronic pain overnight, but so it is a journey. It is a roadmap.
Chronic pain, can you describe that to us so as people are listening, they can understand what your definition of chronic pain is versus acute?
Yeah. Chronic pain is when it is debilitating. It doesn't ever go away. So acute pain, you can take like some aspirin or Advil or ibuprofen or whatever, and it'll go away. That's acute pain. Chronic pain is it doesn't go away, and it's inflammation. It's pain for more than 30 days is what they usually go by. So if they can't figure out how to get the pain to go away within 30 days, it's put up into chronic pain. And it can be in your muscles. It can be just moving. For me, it's my skin. Sometimes it feels like people are trying to rip my skin off. So it really depends on, what you're dealing with and where your weakest area is. And, I have autoimmune disease. So even with autoimmune disease, it affects everyone differently, depending on their immunities that they're
Mhm.
fighting.
So, definition of autoimmune disease, from what I understand, it's almost like the body turning on itself.
Exactly right. Exactly right. It does. It turns on itself, and starts fighting, battling the weakest organ, or that's what lupus is, anyways. There's a
Mhm.
lot of other ones that's like Hashimoto's is for your thyroid, and there's so many different. I mean, there's lots of different autoimmune diseases out there, and they all affect the body differently. But the one thing that's the same as chronic pain.
I know that people suffer from arthritis and they may have it in a certain area. How does that happen?
With arthritis, that is also chronic pain. Some of it is just getting older, but usually it's a wear down. Your muscles and your tissues start wearing down to where that just builds up the chronic pain. So a lot of times there's fluid involved. The bone is falling, coming apart or degenerating. And so all this stuff as, the wear and tear on it just brings in the chronic pain of the arthritis. I know that there are younger people, though, that have arthritis, and that's the sad part is when
Yeah.
Exactly.
you with young, yeah.
That's what I was gonna say is I know there, depending on people's physical background, especially like those who may have been playing, very aggressive sports or things of that nature, or sort of leisure activities. I know for me personally, I have an on and off again relationship with arthritis, and it's mainly driven by a surgery I had when I was in my early 20s. And one of the
Mm,
outcomes of that is every so often I'll get a lot of inflammation or swelling around my joints, especially around my fingers, around my knees. They'll get really stiff. I tell people I've been able to predict the weather, specifically
Yep.
rain, since I was a
Mhm.
young girl. And so I'm really excited to learn about this conversation because I do think these are words and terms that we're hearing much more frequently. I think love or hate the relationship with TikTok, it is allowing to advance these types of conversations and allow people to find community, to look for possible solutions where maybe traditional healthcare may not be providing them to them.
So, Marla,
Exactly.
even in your darkest moments, it sounds like you had to dig within self to find that strength because you didn't want to surrender. It sounds like. Can you explain how you did that?
Yeah, it was hard, but I had experience. I had a mother-in-law who had lupus, and I watched her degenerate in front of me, basically, and her body her lupus, went against her liver, and
Oh,
started attacking her liver, and so it looked like she was an alcoholic and she never drank anything, and so, but that's how they were having to treat her, was like an alcoholic liver, and so I watched, and this was, gosh, 35 years ago, so they didn't really know what lupus was then.
right.
The lifespan was like 5 years, and that's about how long my mother-in-law lived after she got diagnosed.
Aw.
And it was really sad watching her go down that hole. Very painful, very degenerative. And so I was about 2 years, maybe 3 years into it, and I was pretty much sitting on the couch under an electric blanket when I was home. So I'd have to get up to get ready for work. I'd get up 2 hours early to sit under the electric blanket for a couple hours before I could even think about getting up to go to work. And then I had all the cognitive issues and the brain fog, and it felt like I had a cloud over my eyes. It was just like I was always looking through like a piece of gauze or something. I could never really
Mm,
get a clear aspect on it. And so finally one day I finally sat down myself and had a conversation and I said, I can sit here and watch myself go down this rabbit hole, or I can get up and start fighting. And I can remember my doctor saying to me, "Marla, could you just like walk to the end of your building? Just go outside and walk to the end of the building." We owned a condo at the time. And he said, maybe 200 feet and walk back. Could you do that? And I said, no, I can't. I
mhm,
can't walk there. And so when I had this conversation, I said, okay, you're going to get up and you're going to start walking, whether you think you can or not. And so I just started telling myself that I could. I can get better. I can walk that way. I can do this. You know, I can get up and go to work. And so, I just started taking little steps, but it wasn't easy. It was very hard. But I was bloody determined that I was going to go. I was going to make it. I was going to make a change.
yeah. That reminds me a lot of, I think is it Joe Dispenza's book, Are You the Placebo, right? And sometimes when we start talking to ourselves in a different mind frame, I mean, so you can only do so much, but I do think there's a lot of power in the mind.
I
And
think there
if
is a lot.
I say that whether you're
100%.
stubborn, sometimes it's a good trait to be a little bit
Yep.
stubborn
Yep.
and really push yourself within reason.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I see people and I hear of them talking about, and Quincy and Trisha and I have talked, and I've talked with others. One of the things seems to be about weight and losing weight. You talked about Hashimoto's and the thyroid, and of course there are certain things that you can't control with the weight. But talk to us a little bit about losing weight, maybe reducing medications, restoring energy. How did that all come together for you?
Just started doing research and, even today I'm still doing research because there's so many new things on the market. And I will always be a researcher since I got so sick.
Good for you.
But
We love lifelong learners.
yep. And so I just started doing research on something that would help me. That was all natural, that didn't have a lot of fillers. And I ran across a product that I started taking, and it just started changing my life. My mind clarity was like I could see and I could understand things. The brain fog was gone. My emotional stability was more stable. I didn't seem to fly off and get frustrated quite as often. And, people that work a lot can get frustrated pretty easy when things don't go their way.
Totally.
But
That's
that's
right.
just a
When
side
you don't
note.
feel well.
So, things just seemed to be a lot smoother for me. And so, and that was when I started saying, okay, so if I'm taking all of this and all this good stuff for me, why am I still taking some of this other stuff? And so
Yeah.
I
Good
just started
question.
backing off of it, and I'm slowly getting off of my meds. I'm not completely off of them, and I'm not against Western medicine whatsoever because I think some of it is really good, and
Mhm.
some of it is needed, but some of it, you need to find out if there's an alternative that's a natural source, and that's really what I'm in search of even now.
Well, it's interesting because you're not the first conversation I've had with either a holistic medicine or functional medicine or changing through diet, things that can help you and relieve, like arthritis, for instance. I know my husband has arthritis and he crams all of these pretzels in his mouth at the end of the day and wakes up and he's barely able to move. So, talk about some foods, maybe some triggers that we should be aware of, things that we should maybe change our eating habits. Is there something that you found that's been helpful?
The best thing that I found that's helpful is that you go as natural as possible. Um, Try to stay away from all the plastics. I know this world, we live in a plastic world, but if we can
Yes.
stay away from as many plastics as we can, those are all chemicals that we're putting into our bodies without even realizing it. And the one thing I found out, and I'm not against this, I'm not speaking negative about this, but I didn't realize it, is that canned foods they always say, you just grab a can of whatever, vegetables
Right.
or what. There's
Right.
they have a plastic lining inside those cans that
Mhm.
has leaches into your food, and I didn't know that till just recently, and I'm just going, "Oh my god." I don't know if I can eat another canned food because I didn't realize that. So it's all this stuff that you have to just really be careful, read labels, um, and eat as many greens and as many vegetables as you can. That's really where you're gonna get a lot of your, valuable source of, all the enzymes and the vitamins and everything else that you need to let your body, work in its natural course.
Mhm.
Um,
So, integrative health, what would you use to define that?
it's more of the functional medicine, and also I do gene therapy, so I work with, people's genes. So it's kind of all of that all integrated in together. Um, and it also
Makes sense,
integrates
just
with
like it
wisdom.
says. Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a full picture of, how can we take you, from this place to this place, and what do we need to do that? And a lot of times I am under I have their doctors go along with this. So I don't do anything for, my patient without their doctor knowing it, and approving each step that I take
Percent,
because
like
Yeah.
you said.
that's just how I work. And so if they
Makes
aren't
sense.
willing to work with their doctor or their doctor's not willing to work with them, then either they need to find another doctor or I can't work with them because I'm not the doctor. I do a
Right.
lot of research, but I don't have that medical license, and so I can't prescribe it or tell
And
anybody what to do.
it's interesting that the medical community isn't nutrition based. They don't have that, unless they took courses in college, of course.
Right.
It's not
Mhm.
like ongoing continuing education about nutrition and that type of integrative health that you were speaking of isn't necessarily discussed in the doctor's office. So the root cause healing, so it came from somewhere and trying to find out where that was. You mentioned genealogy,
Mhm.
is it in your DNA?
Right.
Is it something that certain, cultures, certain, races, we
Mhm.
have certain things that
They're
are
more
all part of
predispositioned.
who we are, and we're trying to combat it with some form of medicine, normally in the form of a pill, and it just doesn't
Exactly.
work, does it?
No, it covers it up, basically. It's not fixing anything, it's just covering it up. And it could be, what they call it is SNPs, SNPs, SNPs. So your genes can have a SNP. It could be something that you were born with. It could be something that is in your environment that maybe as a young child, you were in an environment, maybe you had a grandparent that smoked, or you had a parent that smoked, or you were in an environment where there was a lot of, plastics and, toxins in the house, like from the flooring and from your furniture. I mean, the world is full of chemicals. We just don't realize it because that's how we've lived. But and you can't get it all clean. So what do? You have to work on cleaning that, and cleaning those genes. And there are protocols that you can do to clean those genes, and have a better, keep them clean. And but it's a change in lifestyle. You can't go grab the potato chips.
Mhm.
Or if you do, you gotta do a really good cleanse, and I'm not talking about, like, those detox cleanses. I'm
Yeah.
talking about getting back on your fresh vegetables and your beets and all those nutritious things that a lot of people don't wanna eat, that they'd rather go grab the popcorn or the potato
The
chips or the
easy.
pretzels like
Yeah.
your husband, or, my husband loves the pretzels. I think it's the salt, I'm not sure, but
That
so,
salt is so addictive.
it is very addictive. It is very addi and for some people, it's okay because you need it. Salt's
But
not really bad.
interestingly enough, on the topic of salt, if you go in a restaurant ever since 2020, and probably for some areas before, they don't put out the salt shaker, and yet we need iodine, and I can't help but wonder if because these things were posted out there to in media, television, whatever, about salt and how it did, you know, spiked your blood pressure, for instance, or did some other things damage to your body. I can't help but wonder if we got away from using salt on a regular basis, if some of that isn't part of what we're experiencing, compounded by the many different types of sugar. Look at the sugar substitutes out there that
Yeah,
are
there's
available,
everything in sugar.
and
Yeah.
everyone has no problem doing them and popping them in their cup of tea or coffee.
Yeah.
But hey, don't give me the salt for my tenderloin.
Yeah.
I just don't get it sometimes.
Yeah. I think they took the salt away because of COVID, because they didn't know how COVID was passing or being passed on from one person. But then I think the restaurants and the public places where you eat found out that they could save a lot of money by not providing salt. Um, because that is a staple that they were always providing, and people would just take the whole salt shaker with them or whatever. But so it's just been easier for them, so they didn't have to do it. But the
I think
sugar
it's probably
thing is,
financial.
yeah,
Not to mention the staff has to clean them, just like we know,
yeah,
people have dirty hands, they
yeah,
don't wash
and
their hands after.
it really is kinda gross when you think you pick up a salt shaker and you don't know how many thousand people have had that same salt shaker, and what have they done to it?
By the
I
same
I'd rather have the
token
little packets than I don't
by the
have to
same
do.
token, that's why we have immune systems, right?
A
If
little
we
bit.
Yeah,
don't build up our, immune system by eating dirt,
yeah,
then, when we are exposed to something we don't live in a bubble. Well, some
yeah,
Right.
people
and
do.
that's really, in fact, I
Balance.
just heard an article about that, just the other day about how, because of COVID, we were so shut away that now that we're back out in public, a lot of people are having problems because their immunities had shut down. They weren't fighting it daily. Um, and so it's just kind of an interesting tidbit.
Yeah, there was all that conversation about herd, remember the herd
Mhm.
immunity and
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
letting nature take its course, and then I think now we have these super viruses. Here on the East Coast, I know you ladies are out west. Here on the East Coast, we're having a horrible time with this, influenza A that started in the fall through
Mhm.
the holidays, and it has been horrendous what it does. It makes people delusional, it gives a headache like you wouldn't believe. And, the inflammation that some of these things cause on your body, the bad eating habits, not being exposed to certain things, the arthritis, the inflammatory, responses that you get, they can mimic other things,
Absolutely.
can't they?
Absolutely. Yeah, they can, there's a lot of times, um, different illnesses mimic different things, or they'll morph into something that doesn't even look like what it was originally. And it all depends on how your body can fight the immunities. And if it's too much on one part of your body, it just goes, and something else is going to step up to take its place when it's not strong enough. But, when everything is not strong enough, then that's when you have a complete breakdown of
Yeah,
Shutdown.
systems.
Yeah.
and
That
we
seems
saw that.
really yeah, that sounds really, really scary to me, and I was even just thinking about what you were sharing earlier about, having that conversation with yourself about wanting to make those changes, and we know that at times, while, most doctors are well-intentioned, they don't often hear the voice of the patient, right? We know they oftentimes are just sort of moving them through and checking them in and out. And so what would be your recommendation, Marla, to say, if there's someone who's feeling as though they're having some of these symptoms, they can't really describe it. What are some of the language or some of maybe those probing questions that they could have with their medical professional to maybe take the conversation a bit more seriously, even if someone doesn't have all the language?
Um, First, I would highly recommend they do their research so that they know, what they're dealing with. Um, but I know, like, one of the biggest things, doctors are they even though they are very brilliant and they have their protocols, and it's like, this is it. This is what we do. This is what you do for blood work. This is what you do for this. They have this set role, And, they're only allowed, what, 10 minutes or something per person? They're not gonna find out what's
Right.
wrong with
They're
you in
really
10 minutes.
limited by
Yeah.
insurance, aren't they?
Um, and so sometimes you just you first I would recommend that somebody go into their doctor's office with a notebook with they already know what they're gonna talk about because they have 10 minutes.
Great advice.
And so, write down what your concerns are. Write down, uh, what you would like to have tested. A lot of times, like for the thyroid, they just do a basic thyroid test, but sometimes the T3 isn't working correctly, or your T4 isn't working correctly. Well, they don't really test for that. So you have to ask for a detailed thyroid test, not just a basic thyroid test. You want everything, because you want to know what the free radicals are doing, what the T4s are doing, what the T3s are doing. And they don't do that test unless you ask for it, because that's not on their protocol.
So
And so
T3s, T4s, can we back up just a second? T3s, T4s, meaning, can
those
you
are
define
just,
that
the terms, the different cells. That's what they have labeled the different cells in your thyroid.
and what they
Um,
do?
yeah, yeah, that's what they're called, is T3s and T4s.
And they all
So,
perform differently.
yep, and they're both needed, and sometimes they're not. The T4 it stores up the extra energy, and there's another radical that actually will take the extra energy into T4 from the T4 and put it into the T3 when you need extra energy. And if that's not working correctly, then you're going to be exhausted even though you have a lot of extra energy in your T4 cell, but it didn't get transferred to where you need it.
Mm.
I know
Interesting
that's
how the
a
body
lot of
works.
medical jargon, but
I love it, I love it. So
Right.
you've built some programs, developed, some tools, and created some really cool systems to help people and help them empower, and that's what Optimize Her 2, in essence, is all about, in addition to what
absolutely.
I do and Quincy does in our professions, is to empower people. We wanna educate, we wanna elevate, we wanna empower, and what you're doing is all of that
Yes. And you
through
can't
those
really
programs.
Yeah, you can't be empowered unless you're feeling good. That's one of the things, especially as an entrepreneur or as someone who's, a founder or who's in management or, is working and they're burning candles at both ends and they're trying to take care of their family and they're trying to take care of their kids and they themselves feel horrible. Until you can get your body to feel better, you're not going to be able to be 100% anywhere else because you aren't 100%. So no matter how hard you work, you're not gonna get there.
Yeah. I hear you when you say that, Marla. I know, a couple years back, I ended up going to the emergency well, the urgent care because I was just feeling very, very low in my energy. And in that, they did some blood work, and without, like, going into all the details, I found out that my iron was severely low, right?
Mhm. Yep.
And in that, the doctor calls me and says, "Well, hey, either we need to have you come back in and get in the hospital and so we can do some infusions, or what I chose to do was go to this, infusion, it's almost a dialysis type center, and do a weekly iron infusion." And I did this for
Oh,
about a year,
oh my
right?
goodness.
Right. And what was so strange about it is as I was talking to the medical professionals, they just couldn't believe that I was still operating at this place of, leading a business, leading a family, doing all the things, because I just thought that was the normal sort of the base level in which my energy was at. And I had learned to work with it. You know what I mean? And I think so many of us as women, or just, gender really doesn't matter, when you're not aware that there's the possibility of feeling better, you just deal with the way that you feel because it's what you've come to accept, and you don't have that time or that space. Maybe you don't have that privilege to pause and say, wait, what's going on with me? So I love that you have systems and resources available to help people. I wish I would have
Yeah.
known you then.
And
Yeah.
we're learning more about that on Optimize Her too. I have a feeling we're gonna be focusing heavily because, as you mentioned, women are, and I've discussed many times, women are multifaceted. They're trying to raise families, they're having businesses, they're doing so many more things than they did. At burning the candle at both ends was a good analogy there, because it's hard to do that. You'll burn your
Mhm.
fingers if you try to hold it. Yeah. Your compassion and your resilience has been amazing, Marla, that you have found that empathy and compassion through your own personal experience.
Yes. I've always known for some reason in the back of my mind that I would eventually be working with women. I've always been drawn to women, and I don't have anything against men. If there was a guy that came to me and said, "Hey, I need your help," there is absolutely, absolutely, I'll help you too. But personally, I have always been drawn to working with women, and
Yeah.
in my prior profession, I was a bookkeeper. Well, I'm working behind scenes, and, that's really not doing what I felt like I was going to be doing. And so when I got so sick, which is, kind of funny because that's exactly what I did. We were just talking about it. I was going so hard for so long that my body shut down, totally shut
Mm,
down. And they could not figure out what was going on. First they thought I had a urinary tract infection. I mean, that's
Mhm.
what it all started out at. And then they're going, no, that's not it. And then it just kind of morphed and they would call me into emergency and then they would say, no, you have to wait. And so it was just this yo-yo thing and they were really concerned. But, so living through all of this and seeing all of the pain and suffering that's out there in the world, I couldn't sit down and say, "Okay, I'm retired," because I was retired. And I had all of these I had all my activities going on and, hanging out with friends. And I said, it's just not fair because I know how I can help people. I know how I can make a difference in somebody's life. And so I finally, one morning, I just woke up and said, I want to make a difference in a million lives. I want to change a million women's lives. And I can't do it sitting playing with my clay and in my glass and doing my craft stuff. And so that was when I told my husband, I have to go back. I have to start my business up. I have to
Yeah.
work with women. I have to make a difference.
I
And
feel the same way, and I can share with you the analytics, and I know Quincy is very much aware of this. We sought out to work with women on Optimize Her2, an extension of what we do in our professions, and come to find out, based on our analytics, that 60% of our viewers are female, 40% are male, and like you said, anyone can come to you. That's just your niche, much like our niche,
Mhm.
and we invite them the gentleman that watch Optimize Her too to reach out to you as well. In addition, interestingly enough, that people all over the world are watching Optimize Her too. Right now, we have 9 countries that have viewed our podcast. So that's interesting. They want to know too, and we're educating them. That's the big part. The first E in Optimize Her too: educate, elevate, and empower, and provide a little entertainment along the way.
Little entertainment,
But
yeah.
now, if somebody wants to reach out to you, Marla, what is the best way for them to contact you? Because I think you can share a lot with people and at least get them started and help them go through the process.
right.
Absolutely.
The best way to reach me is via my website, and that is www.inflammationstrategies, all one word, .com. There they can download a free inflammation reset guide. And they can also sign up for a free consultation where we can just sit and chat about their situation. It is not a high pressure. I'm not there to sell. I'm here to change lives. And so we start there, and then we can go from there to whatever plan they want to go on, or if they want to do it on their own, I can give them some pointers on where to go and how to look. So it really depends on what that person wants. And if they want someone to be, that they're accountable to, or to cheer them on, or to help them when they're having a down day, um, that's great. If not, then that's great also. I just want to touch a million lives.
So this is our gift from Marla Chaffin in the beginning of this new year 2026 is to reach out to her and schedule that time with her and download. That's another
That
great gift.
reset guide sounds amazing.
Mm,
Yes, it is.
Mhm.
very helpful, very helpful. Well, ladies, I thank you all. And I'm sure, Quincy, you may have something else you might want to add here as we're signing off.
Yeah, I'm just really excited, Marla. Thank you so much for bringing this conversation to our audience. And I would implore you all to definitely go out and look at that reset guide and just see how it can be a companion to your overall health and wellness as you move through this next year. My goal and my ask, as you guys always know, is to please make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, do all the things, share us with a friend, a cousin, a sister, or brother, or uncle, because I think what we're doing here is just really opening up conversations to let us be a little bit more connected in sort of this digital and transactional world. So I am happy to always be a part of the Optimize Her2 family. And Barb, back over to you.
Oh, Quincy, thank you so much. And, like you say, all the things. We really appreciate you coming on and listening to our guests. They're so informative, so experienced. We bring on some really great speakers to join you. And we hope that you come back again for our next podcast of Optimize Her 2, aired on the first and third Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much, and thank you again, Marla, for this great opportunity to learn so much more about what's happening in our body.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Stay well.